The wealth gap in the Berkshires tops Massachusetts' 3 other western counties, according to a new report from the Washington-based Economic Policy Institute. Closer to home, the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation has been doing research reporting on a range of economic and social issues. To learn more about both of these reports, I spoke with Peter Taylor, president of the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation.
Well, a couple of observations. One is that I think the trends that were reported nationally are ones that we're seeing in the area covered by Berkshire Taconic, which is all of Berkshire County, Columbia County in New York, the northeast corner of Dutchess County, and the northwest corner of Connecticut. That's the region we serve. And I think the disparities in income that are reported nationally through that report are reflective in the region that we serve in terms of growing levels of poverty. The poverty direction is not going at the direction that we would like, but as well as rising costs of living, which is creating pressure points on families, especially in the middle and lower income areas.
So one of the specifics that actually the Berkshire Eagle analyzed the Economic Policy Institute's report, and that's how we found out about it. It pointed out that the top 1% earned about $770,000, and that's 19 times the average earning of residents in Berkshire County. So what does that mean for a community when there's a gap that big?
Yeah, a couple of implications. One is that if you look about general affordability of living in a region like Berkshire County or Columbia County, the price of real estate goes up because there are residents in the community that can afford to pay more. And if you look at affordable housing in the Berkshires or in regions similar to it, the cost of owning a home has gone up considerably. And so that is one implication. I think the other implication, which is concerning, is if you look at the cost of education, how that has doubled in terms of higher education over the last 20 years. Access to education when you are in lower middle class or lower income families is increasingly difficult. And as you know from your reporting, families are relying more on financial aid, on student loans, and that's increasing a debt burden. And so both of those examples, I think, show increasing costs and lower incomes create opportunity gaps for kids and for families.
To your point about the housing piece of it, kind of a double-edged sword, because we know the region that Berkshire Taconic is looking at has a lot of second homeowners, which tend to be good for the economy, right? You're buying tickets, you're going out to dinner, your friends are coming and maybe staying in hotels in the area. But at the same time, you're seeing that drive up housing costs for maybe somebody who wants to get into the market as a first-time home buyer. How do you split the difference there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say that the part-time community in the region that I live and work is incredibly important, not only to the economy but to the community. Part-time residents serve on boards of organizations. They are very generous philanthropically, and they very much have a close affinity to the community. So having said that, in terms of the pressure points on housing, I think one of the ways that you mitigate that is really in a public policy and nonprofit and philanthropic perspective is how can you increase access to affordable and workforce housing. And I think there's some examples in the Berkshires and in New York where communities as well as at the more regional level, there are efforts to increase availability of housing. Great Barrington is a great example. In the last 2 years, there's been an affordable housing trust set up by the community in Great Barrington to use the...
Great Barrington, people often think of as a very expensive place to live and a second homeowner sort of mecca.
Thank you, Carrie, for that clarification, because yes, it has seen an influx of part-time residents and prices have come up. And so the community has made the statement that affordable housing is important for year-round residents. And so the community is making a commitment to set up this affordable housing trust to make housing more affordable and accessible. So it's just an example of how at the local level some of these pressure points can be addressed.
And so that trust is one of the things that Berkshire Taconic has really done as a sort of byproduct of some reporting and research that you've done. And recently, the Closer Look report that came out last year, you now have a new website that you've launched. So in terms of the difference between the report that we saw a year ago and the website, what can people expect?
Well, I think first of all, the purpose of both the report and the website is to really inform decision makers on the issues and the trends and the needs across the region. And so we have invested in analyzing the data and a lot of outreach to really get a pulse on the issues and the trends and the most pressing concerns facing the region. So the website actually is an exciting new feature for our donor community, for our nonprofit partners, and for civic and business leaders and just residents. They can go onto the website and they can zero in on their community, on their county, to really better understand what are some of the key trends, such as levels of affordability of home ownership, overall demographic trends in terms of growth or reduction in the size of the community and the change in the demographics in the community. So those are the types of data points that are available. But we also go deeper because there are 5 trends that we spotlight in our initial report, and we provide profiles and a deeper analysis of those issues in those trends. And those trends are jobs in the economy, the demographic transition that's underway in this region, youth in the workforce, assets and infrastructure, and income inequality.
Right. To that point about deepening inequality, poverty, the report points out that poverty is rising in 3/4 of the region's cities and towns, and that at the same time, incomes have not kept pace with that. So how do you turn that knowledge into change?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can share how we at the foundation are addressing that issue in terms of income inequality. I mean, we've identified that we want to have a stronger commitment to increasing educational attainment, really starting in early childhood through adult learning. Adult learning is important because residents today, we hear from employers, do not have the skills that employers are seeking, especially in some mid and higher level positions. So focusing on educational attainment is really important. And so that is, a pathway both out of poverty, but also to more fuller participation in the workforce.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember from previous reporting of the Berkshire Eagle, people think that, okay, unemployment rate, you look at that, there aren't the jobs out there. Well, no, there are often several thousand jobs open at any given point in time in the Berkshires, but maybe, like to your point, the skill set isn't there for some folks to meet the needs of that particular job. I want to look at demographic transition, which was another area that you looked at in the report, and you point out that the Berkshires and much of the area you serve are an aging demographic, but at the same time, there's some excitement because there's some more diversity showing up in this region. So what stood out to you in that demographic section?
Well, first of all, I mean, to your latter point, there is increasing diversity in the region that the foundation serves, and that is, I think a source of strength and a very important development. If you look since 2000, there has been a doubling in the Hispanic community, as well as a rise of 50% in the residents that were not born in the United States, so the immigrant population. And that's creating, I think, important dynamics in the community, both in terms of bringing younger families to the community, obviously bringing additional members into the workforce, but also we're seeing in Pittsfield, I know you have some roots in Pittsfield, Carrie, that 40% of the storefronts along North Street, which is the central commercial corridor in downtown Pittsfield, are owned and operated by immigrant families, and so they're bringing an important spirit of entrepreneurship to the region, and so that increasing diversity is so important to the region.